I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a series review. It's been known for a while that the Quantum Leap sequel series, in addition to being a turd, has also had many internal production problems, which is likely why Scott Bakula declined to participate in it. Initially, the new show was developed and written by Stephen Lillian and Brian Windbrandt, two second-generation J.J. Abrams disciples who used to work for Alex Kurtzman, the man who brought us Star Trek Discovery. Apparently, after seeing their pilot episode, NBC was unhappy with their work, so they demoted them, and then asked producer Martin Giro, who was already an EP on the show, to replace them as showrunner. Now, while NBC executives disliked the original pilot episode, they also didn't want to lose all the expensive footage they filmed for it, so Giro suggested a perfect, solution. They would keep Ben's pilot leap, but reshoot the present-day scenes as well as a few leap scenes and make it seem like a coherent sixth episode. In my opinion, the fact that Giro could even suggest and then execute this only highlights how disconnected Ben's leaps are from present-day events, which is probably the show's biggest weakness. Nevertheless, this Frankenstein's monster approach is how they ended up turning the original pilot into episode 6, and as you all can imagine, it's a giant mess. On the leap side of things, Ben leaps into a San Francisco husband whose wife wants to divorce him just as the 1989 San Francisco earthquake is about to begin. It then turns out that their son has gone missing because he heard about the divorce, and now they have to find him before he dies in a building collapse. Along the way, Ben and his leap wife help a few people in trouble, but she gets electrocuted, so Ben rescues her with the help of his disappointed fiancé hologram. As Ben tries to find and save the young boy, he remembers that his own mom died when he was in high school after they had a fight, and he feels guilty about it. Ben's disappointed fiancé and him talk about their feelings a lot, and then Ben saves the boy and reconciles with his leap wife. Just as he tries to call his own mother, who's still alive during 1989, to apologize, he leaps into a priest on Halloween. Meanwhile, in present day, Magic and the Quantum Leap Laboratory team try to find out who the evil leaper is from episode 5. They do a facial recognition search and find a soldier that matches within their database, but since he genuinely seems surprised about their questioning, they suspect that he may have started leaping at some point in the future, or may not even be the guy they're looking for. Overall, I would say that this was probably the most frustrating episode that has aired from this new series. There are a few isolated ideas that aren't bad in theory, but as usual, the execution is mostly poor, and even more disorganized than what we're used to seeing here. I keep reading how this series was rushed into production, and how the episodes are only completed about 5 minutes before they air, and it certainly feels that way. I'm going to go over the things that I did like in the episode, and then discuss what I didn't like. Number 1. 1989 Earthquake. I like the idea of Ben leaping into an historic event. This concept usually works well in time travel shows, although much like with all of Ben's previous leaps, this show completely underdelivers. The disaster element looks okay in a few scenes, but as usual, we never really feel like Ben has leaped into another era, and given the back and forth between the leap and present day events, we never really care about his mission either. Number 2. Ben's childhood. Ben remembering some type of traumatic event that shaped his life when he was younger is a reasonable creative direction. It worked well in the original series when Sam remembered that his brother Tom was killed in Vietnam. I still think that the way they built Sam's backstory and character arc was much stronger, but at least there was an attempt here, however poor, at some type of storytelling and character building for Ben's song in this episode, so I suppose it's better than nothing. Number 3. Ernie Hudson. I'm not happy with how soon the writers desperately introduced the idea of an evil leaper on this show, as they needed to establish Ben's leaping side of things first, which they haven't really done, or at least have not done well. With that being said, Ernie Hudson is a good actor, and at times, his commitment to his role almost makes me forget that this show is written by a bunch of toddlers with ADHD. Number 4. Office attire. In most of episode 6, random office guy person wears professional attire, and I can only hope the showrunner continues with this approach, as it seems more plausible that this is what a top scientist would wear to a top US government facility. In my opinion, regardless of his character's identity or preferences, having him wear a cocktail dress to work in episode 5 simply doesn't ring true to his place of employment, even in 2022. Well, that was the good. Now let's talk about the bad. Number 1. Too busy. Since this episode was hastily put together, including a bunch of obvious reshoots, there seem to be a lot of different things happening at the same time, and none of them really get the attention they deserve. We have the earthquake, Ben's childhood memories, Ben and his disappointed fiance's relationship, and the evil Leaper investigation in present day. This is too much to fit into one 42-minute episode. If it were up to me, the episode should have only focused on 2 things: the Earthquake Leap mission and Ben's childhood memories, because at least those 2 storylines are somehow connected. By seeing the young boy he's supposed to save fight with his mom, Ben is reminded of what he himself said to his mom before she passed away. Now this idea could actually potentially work, which is why sometimes it's better to keep the storytelling simple, something that this show's writers just can't seem to do. Number 2. Too many feelings. At the end of the episode, Ben's disappointed fiancée tells Chief Security Officer Lady that she loves how vulnerable Ben has become while leaping and that he talks about his feelings all the time. Oddly though, as a viewer, I feel the exact opposite. This is a time travel adventure show. The show should focus on that aspect, not on being a daytime soap opera. Yes, the original series had an occasional storyline or plot that was more emotional, but the writers never lost focus of the genre they were writing and what the show was intended to be. Number 3. Disappointed fiancé. This week, in an episode that Ben leaps into a man having marital problems with his wife, having his present-day disappointed fiancé hologram walking around is extremely annoying and distracting for both his character and the viewer. Part of the charm of the original show is that there was also romance. Sam would often try to maintain or fix relationships within his leap, and in the process, he would often form a real bond with people, including women. As viewers, we would also connect with the Leap characters as well, but how can Ben or the viewers focus on his in-Leap personal relationships with women if his present-day disappointed fiancé is always there to whine all the time? It's kind of like going to a strip club with your wife as a chaperone. That's why in the original series, Sam forgets that he's married in the present day, and Al never reminds him because he fears that it would jeopardize his mission if he did. Now that's good writing. Number 4. Silly scenes. There were a few dumb scenes that really stood out during this episode. The first one is when Ben tells an ambulance that people are injured, as if they didn't know this themselves already. I mean, there was just a massive earthquake, and they were there too. Another scene involves Ben giving CPR in a very implausible way. So implausible that a person that does actually specialize in CPR wrote to me this week, telling me how poorly the scene was written. Thank you, Eric, by the way. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, but I suspect that hitting somebody's chest once isn't likely to immediately save their lives, at least not in most cases, but I guess Ben is very resourceful. Number 5. Set and costumes. No matter where he goes on this show, to me, it often feels like Ben has leapt into a Hollywood studio backlot, or possibly even a green screen room at times. It just feels so lazy. The original series had so much great on-location shooting in different places. You really did feel like you were in a different time and place every episode. It also doesn't help that the Leap people never really act or talk in a way that seems representative of their time or location. I'm not saying that the original series was perfect in that sense, but it sure made a much greater effort and was far more convincing. In recent weeks, some of you have told me that I'm being negative and that I should give the show proper time to find its footing, but I wholeheartedly disagree. NBC wanted an existing audience of longtime fans to watch this show as a sequel series, and if you market it that way and produce a turd, people have the right to criticize it. In my opinion, if NBC wasn't able to put this show together properly, then it would have been best to leave it alone, or at minimum, call it a remake without even mentioning the original characters. It also doesn't help that the writers just keep employing cheap J.J. Abrams-style writing gimmicks and tricks with no substance whatsoever. Every episode there's another tease, another mystery, another question that leads to another question, only to lead to yet another question. This isn't Lost though, it's Quantum Leap, and all these Jedi mind tricks don't work on us. And newsflash, a sci-fi time travel adventure show that constantly relies on soap opera dialogues every second is a hallmark sign for poor writing. This is what writers do when they don't have enough talent, don't have enough time, or both. What did you think of episode 6 of the new Quantum Leap series? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.